Good afternoon, everyone. Just closing my door so no one tries to physically walk into virtual office hours and interrupt us as we're going. We are so glad to have you here. If you haven't yet and you just came in, if you don't mind putting at least your name and your district into the chat box, that would be excellent. While you're working on that, I'd love to introduce members of our team who are here with us today. So I'm Lila Toll-Monsager, the Director in the Office of Educator Effectiveness and Leadership Development. I'm joined by three colleagues today. First, Faye Colley, who can give you a wave, who's one of our associates working on ADEPT. Julie Hartwell, one of our associates also on the ADEPT side. Julie, if you could give them a wave. And Keisha Grant has just joined our office, and she's working with emerging leaders on our leadership side. So Keisha, if you don't mind giving the folks a wave. We are so very, very glad to have you, especially if you are new to working on teacher quality or teacher effectiveness in your district. This group is a collective brain trust of how to support teachers in South Carolina. I have learned so much from the people in this virtual room. So we're excited to connect you with your colleagues, and just know that there is no question at all. And if you have an issue you want to work out together here, we can do that together here today. If you are new to the Teams platform, your ability to mute your mic and your controls are going to be in the bottom if you have kind of an older version of Teams. And they're going to be in the top right-hand corner if you have a newer version of Teams. You can click on the microphone to mute your mic. You can also raise a hand by clicking on the raised hand icon. When you click on the little hand and the happy face, you also see thumb down. Or actually, no, I don't think you can thumb us down. You can do that in the chat. But it's got a heart, it's got applause there if needed. You also have a way to toggle on your camera as well. Throughout the presentation, feel free to ask us questions in the chat, and we'll have a time to pause along the way. Also, if you have any questions that you want to bring on the mic or put into the chat. But we're really glad you're here today. And there is the only thing I'll mention about the hand icon, it always trips me up when I'm coming back and forth between Teams and Zoom. When you put up your hand after you have been recognized, you then have to lower your hand manually, so it doesn't just go away, and we don't have a way to lower it for you. We really appreciate everyone who was able to respond about the things making you smile and the things keeping you up at night. With a couple exceptions, I think that the thing that's keeping us up at night and the thing that's making us smile is the same. We're so eager to have people back on campus, back in buildings. Many of you, almost all of you, are with teachers by now. Many of you already have students back in the buildings, and dang, the resurgence of the coronavirus in our communities is really, really something to give us pause, and something that is going to continue to keep us on our toes. So we hope that in the many, many responsibilities you have, something that we cover today will help lessen the load that you have around teacher effectiveness and teacher quality. As far as our agenda, if you wouldn't mind heading to the next slide, Faye. This is our agenda. We're going to start with, we're having a webinar to help teachers understand the slight changes to the ADEPT process for them tomorrow. So we want to preview that for you. Second, we've gotten a lot of good feedback about the simplified SLO and the teacher leadership goal this summer. So we wanted to share some of those FAQs and see if there are any other questions about there. Special areas is starting full implementation this fall. So we'll touch on that and especially see if you have any questions there. A space to remind you of the resources and support that is available on our website and through SC Lead, and then time for discussion and questions. And I should just mention other members of our team, Rodney, Beverly, and Kim, are all out training today. So they send their greetings. They'll be back together with us next month, but we're glad that they're out supporting folks to understand the rubric a little bit better today and do mentor training. So with that, I'll hand the mic over to Dr. Hartwell to talk a little bit more about our teacher webinar.
Thank you, Lila. I'm glad that Lila gave us a little intro about the teacher webinar, but we wanted to remind the group that it is tomorrow. Information regarding the webinar was in the July newsletter and featured on the South Carolina Department of Education's website in the announcements slideshow on the main page. And here you see a screenshot of that. The webinar is going to be held tomorrow, August 12th at 4 p.m. It's going to be 1 hour. We don't want to take up too much of the educators' time because we know this is, of course, a busy time of the year for everybody. So I'm going to drop a link, um, a registration link. If you have not already shared this with folks in your district, please do so. And again, they can go to the SCDE main homepage, and there's a link immediately from the homepage where they can get to the registration site. For those who cannot attend, the presentation will be recorded, and the link will be available on the office's webpage under our communications feature box. But all classroom-based teachers and special area educators are invited, and so are you for that matter. But we need your help to help us spread the word to educators in your district. The room has a capacity of 300 seats, and we would like to hit that maximum. Right now, we're somewhere around 185, so there is still room. So please help us by spreading the word. On the next slide, I want to talk to you a little bit about what we're going to share with folks during the webinar. So tomorrow, we're going to discuss these agenda items. One of the primary reasons we're doing this webinar is to help get the word out and ensure that everybody understands and knows that there are changes to the SCTS environment domain. So our presentation will focus on responsive and inclusive teaching practices also. We wanted to give you a preview of the resources that we're going to share with educators tomorrow. So I am dropping in the chat 2 of the resources that we're going to share. One talks about, as I said, responsive and inclusive strategies and what they would look like and sound like in the classroom. And it also highlights where those alignments are in the rubric. Wanted to also give y'all a heads up that we're letting participants know that they can earn job embedded renewal credits for completed micro credentials. And in case you didn't know, that's worth 12 renewal credits right there for micro credentials. And they can also get renewal credit for participation in a PLC. There are requirements for those hours, and they are also described in this document that I just dropped in the chat. So we wanted to share them with you so that if you have questions, if folks come back to you with questions, after our webinar around job embedded professional learning options and renewal credit, you'll have the very same resources that we shared with them. So again, please help us get the word out. It's not too late for them to register to attend. And Lila has provided a point of clarification. Thank you, Lila, that for the PLC, those are only approved renewal opportunities if they're approved by your district. So thank you, Lila, for that. All right. Are there any questions about the teacher webinar tomorrow at 4? If you do, please drop them in the chat, or you can contact one of us directly. And I'm going to turn it back over to Lila. Lila?
Thank you so much, Julie. As Julie mentioned, we are taking time tomorrow to run the teachers through the simplified SLO, but we've gotten some great questions from all of you over the summer, so we want to make sure that we address those in this section. So on the next slide is just a screenshot of the beginning of the SLO process. And as you know, the state board adopted the simplified SLO, and if we can go to the next slide, Faye. As the permanent professional growth and development template for classroom-based teachers in June. The shift in these first 2 sections is really about trying to focus teachers on that data that they already have and to identify just one high priority content standard or one of our South Carolina Profile Social and Emotional Competencies that the teacher wants to use to reflect on the growth of that group of students. We have updated our training resources to support your work with teachers. So first, the training toolkit that we'll drop in the chat has an updated on-demand teacher-facing training, as well as other SLO resources. The module that we used to use in SoftChalk that created credits and created a certificate was a technology that went away. That vendor was no longer offering, so we have replaced that with a similar voice recorded training that you can use. Also, the second link Julie has put there is the SLO resources page, and it has updated templates as well as updated examples of SLO on that simplified template. If we look at the next page, this is really the third thing that teachers have to do as they're setting up that initial SLO conference. And it's, in my mind, really the heart of it. Now that you know what you're doing with your students, what's your professional growth goal this year? Which instructional strategy do you really want to focus on? We did add one additional reflective question, which is question C, which is in blue, to ask teachers to think about which inclusive learning practice is most closely connected to their work. This is really aligned to those changes in the environment domain and those responsive and inclusive practices that Julie mentioned. We really want to honor all the work that teachers do at the beginning of the year, but also throughout the year to set up environments where their students can really succeed. Because one of the things we notice, and you probably notice it too, is in a lot of those classrooms where students are experiencing the most growth, the most rigor, the most growth even when they're struggling, are places that are a very rich learning environment. So we want to give administrators a chance to have that conversation with teachers, but also for teachers to be able to have that conversation at the beginning of the year with their evaluator. Finally, we are excited to hear how this goes. This is something that we haven't incorporated before, but got feedback back this spring that it might be something good to do. You are the folks who will be on the front line, so we're eager to hear if a principal tells you that question didn't land well or it landed really well. We'd love to hear that from you. The other proposed change to the SLO that came from feedback from the field was the addition of the teacher leadership goal. This update, if you are thinking in terms of forms, it lives in section 2 of the SLO/professional growth and development plan template, or in that professional goals section inside of SC Lead. And I'll take a moment to recap for those who haven't had conversations with us or weren't in your position in the spring, what our teacher leadership goal is, and then we'll have some time to discuss questions. So first, we got feedback from district leaders, from our ed prep programs, and from induction and mentoring coordinators that finding teachers to mentor, finding teachers to be a cooperating teacher has just gotten more and more difficult. And although we would love to be able to increase the stipend that you can give to folks to do that, so you could open up more opportunities for them to have more preps, our advocacy hasn't worked there yet. So we wanted to look at things that we could do to honor the importance of teacher leadership, because it's so essential in building a culture that retains those already effective teachers, but also grows those teachers who aren't quite as effective yet. We also got some feedback from the field that teacher leaders who in the past had done national board and were maybe thinking about renewal felt like the SLO was just another piece of paperwork at that same time that was getting in the way of them doing national board. And although when we initially got that feedback, I wanted my response in the moment to be, if you're a great teacher, you're already looking at data, you're already doing everything in the SLO, it's not going to be really tough for you. But instead, in this moment of recruitment and retention, when it's hard to keep people, I decided to step back, and the team thought together about where is that coming from? And it's coming from a place of, we ask people to take on so much teacher leadership without ever taking anything even small off of their plate. And many of our teacher leaders are already so strong at teaching, they've demonstrated many times over in many SLOs, in many ways, in their test scores even, that they are very effective at teaching. And yet we're still asking them to do this work that, yes, is easy for them to do and they're very capable of doing, but is one more thing on top of the many other things they're doing to really run and lead our schools effectively. So we tried to open up our heart a little bit and think about what kind of incentives or recognition we could give teachers. And one of the things we came up with was this optional teacher leadership goal. We would recommend that districts or school leaders choose to allow teachers to use the teacher leadership goal as a substitute for the SLO, only in a couple of specific cases. So the first, it would be appropriate if you have someone who you might deem a lead teacher. This is a teacher who's accountable for the growth of other teachers. And this could be on a small scale, like coaching a pre-service or in-service teacher as a cooperating teacher or a mentor, or maybe even as a department head. It could be someone who is a hybrid teacher leader who has time off during the day to do some coaching and some leading, but then also has some time during the day when they are with students. It doesn't matter how many coachees this person has. It isn't like teaching in an SLO where you have to hit the threshold of 6. It could be just someone who's working with one student teacher the whole year and has them embedded in their class there. The second category we think about is a master teacher, or a teacher who's actively seeking recognition for their expertise in teaching. Teachers who are pursuing a national board certification, they are going for a whole stack of micro-credentials in a certain instructional area, or they're going for another formal recognition or certification in a specific teaching area, could be eligible or considered as emerging master teachers. We do want to emphasize again that there's no right number for that one. If it's a right fit for a successful teacher's professional growth plan to focus on the teacher leadership goal, even if they're only supporting a small number of other teachers, that might be the right way to build their capacity. And we want to leave that flexibility to you, and also emphasize that this is now an option on the table. You don't have to open it up to every teacher. You don't have to open it up to every school. You may decide, we want to consider this for people who are actively coaching other teachers, but we're not ready to do this for folks pursuing national board yet. It should be flexible to meet the kind of incentives and the kind of recognition you want to offer for the teacher leadership that's happening in your district. We have developed a one-pager on our website that will drop into the chat that explains the teacher leadership goal in more detail. But I would invite you, if you have questions about the teacher leadership goal or the SLO, go ahead and put those in the chat or come on the mic and we'll address those right now. So Anita's question is a great one to start with. She asks, they can be teachers who are serving students who would qualify for an SLO as long as they are also coaching teachers. And we would say, yes, absolutely. That's who this is designed for. Many of you already do a teacher leadership goal or a professional growth and development goal or a Section 2 goal for people who are coaches or who don't have a teaching load, but you can expand that net to people who have students part-time, but also are taking on these leadership tasks. Any other questions? If they come to you, we will definitely leave the chat open. Before we head on to the next section, Faye and Julie, I know y'all have been in training with other districts too. Are there any FAQs about SLOs that I missed?
No, I think you touched on all the big ticket issues.
Same here, Lila, from the SLO school leadership attendees. I think they're just still digesting the information and they'll reach us when they're ready.
Excellent. We would ask the same thing with this. If you get feedback, this is a great idea. Or I had someone call me yesterday who said, here are the questions for my principals. This is what they're confused about. Please share that with us, because we always want to put options on the table that are useful for you, but we realize you may get feedback along the way that you want to pass along to us. So that's really helpful. The next section we want to share with you is just some special areas reminder. So I'll go there after Danny's question, which is, what about teachers in their comprehensive formative year? This would take the place of their SLO, correct? Absolutely. So whether, I really wouldn't recommend using the teacher's leadership goal with induction teachers, although they may be doing great teacher leadership for you. They've got a lot on their plate that they're also doing. Same thing with annual summative. They've got some other things that are rigorous about that process. It's probably not a great choice. But if someone is on even annual formative or GBE after they've successfully completed summative, or they're on comprehensive formative or GBE, it is absolutely acceptable to just substitute that SLO with the teacher leadership goal. The next section we want to talk to you a little bit about is just some reminders about the special areas implementation. So on the next slide is our friendly timeline. And we've been looking at this for a couple years. And the reason we put it here is really just to celebrate. We've been talking to librarians, counselors, SLPs, certainly since before 2018-19 school year about how they needed an updated tool, but really started gathering their feedback in 18-19. And finally, in 2021, all districts across the state have those updated evaluation instruments for school counselors, librarians, and our speech language pathologists. We know that the timing isn't great, and these past 2 years have been hectic for reasons that none of us could control. And so we want to just share with you that we understand if it's felt like a heavy lift getting evaluators trained. And that's part of the reason we wanted to take it online and make it uniform, so that's not one more thing that you had to deal with on your own. But if you're still feeling pressed, you can be strategic about who you train first. Think about those counselors, librarians, and SLPs that need to be on formative or summative evaluation this year. Get those evaluators trained, because any evaluator can conduct a GBE without that formal training, even if they are conducting a GBE with a counselor that's doing that student growth goal. If you need any support with getting folks signed up for that training and navigating Moodle, Beverly Flythe is our contact for our special area managers, and so she can certainly help you out with that. On the next slide, we'll just share with you, this is the overview that we're sharing with the teachers in the Adept Changes webinar tomorrow. Mainly, we're just sharing that resource page for all of the special areas guidelines, and we'll put that link into the chat for you just in case you don't have it and you want to be able to bookmark it as well. That link has all of the guidelines. It also has all of the orientations. So the orientation process for our counselors, librarians, and SLPs is differentiated the same way that it is for our teachers. So if someone is on a goals-based evaluation, really they need to know what their timeline is. They need to know when to turn in those goals, and that can happen as a part of that preliminary evaluation conference. If they are on formative or summative, they need to know a little bit more. They need to know what the evaluation instrument is. They need to know the timeline. They need to know who is on the team, and a little bit more about the process. And so we do have PowerPoints on our website that can help you with conducting those orientations as well, and happy for you to adapt those to your needs. The last thing we'll mention as a resource is that SC Lead has been updated to reflect the feedback we got both from pilot districts and from our OE-ELD testers. So I just really, really appreciate everyone who spent time last year and last spring, inclusive of Faye and Julie, who really did a thorough job making sure that what we designed in the guidelines is what's in SC Lead for those educators. And really glad that they now have a rubric to get feedback on for those. So that's it for special areas. I'm going to pass it to Faye for our next to last section about the resources available on our website.
Thanks, Lila. And before I transition to my slides, we do have a few questions that tie to your previous slides on the TLG and special areas. Do you want to address them now while it's fresh on their minds, Lila? Trish and Cliff both have questions.
Sure, I'll scroll up and catch them. Thank you for that, Faye. Is the TLG also appropriate for special areas educators? I realize most will be writing a GBE, but do they have the option to focus on a teacher leadership goal? That's a great question. I think within the school counselor, the way you would have to work it is this. The short answer is yes, it's absolutely appropriate. For counselors, you're probably going to have to write it on that student growth goal form, which is pretty open-ended, and you could use that for it because there's not a skip option built into that form. For librarians and for SLPs, it should be pretty easy just to do that professional growth goals section, which is what you would do for GBE anyway. So that'll show up on those forms. So absolutely, you could choose to use that teacher leadership carrot with those educators as well. Cliff's question, if someone is not evaluated, would they still have access to the TLG? There would need to be an evaluation created for them if they wanted to be able to do the form, because that's where it lives inside of SC Lead. We have had folks put folks who are usually in a non-evaluated role onto continuing GBE before or actually onto LOA to accomplish that before. And so that's probably the best place to do it. If it's someone like an administrator who's really not in the adept world at all, and you want to do that, Cliff, maybe reach out to me. We have figured out some workarounds, and I don't know if Dr. Wilson is here from Dorchester too or not, but we've had some folks who said, I want to figure out a way to use SC Lead for my APs. So we have a workaround, but it's so complicated, I don't remember it off the top of my head. So Cliff, definitely get in touch with me if you have a specific group that you want. It usually involves maybe having people in no role and then putting them on a locally developed. So we don't want to mess up your adept data. So just talk to me and we can figure that out. For Emily, she's asking, can we give an update for SC Lead for 21-22? Some of my schools have recently disappeared on our roster. So we will address more about SC Educator at the end, but we have sent the updated schools list from the Department of Education, everyone with a BEDS code, to SC Lead recently. So if you do have individual schools, Charleston reached out to us last week. There's one extra one that's a new school that hasn't been added, so we're able to then go and see if there are any updates that have been made to that list. So definitely reach out to us if you're seeing something like a school not being there. And we'll take some time at the end to talk about PCS and staffing and people who might not be showing up. Thank you, Faye, for that. I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Lila, and thanks everyone for your questions. I think we all benefit from that. So we'll just go over this quick section on resources to help you in your role, whether you're new or a veteran. So the first useful resource, of course, is our effectiveness website. On this slide, you'll see that web address, and I'll also drop it in the chat. And so if you don't memorize that link that I just dropped, that's perfectly fine, as long as you remember www.ed.sc.gov, which is our main agency's website. And to get from there to our page, you want to hover over the top horizontal menu where it says educators, and then a drop down menu will appear, and you have to choose educator effectiveness. And then from there, you will see our educator effectiveness website or homepage, and I'll walk you through these feature boxes, as we call these. On the top row, on the upper left side, is our communications feature box. This is where our virtual office hours recordings and PowerPoint presentations are housed. There's also a bullet there for the monthly updates for districts and schools. That is where we house our newsletters that we send to you monthly. Here, also on the top row, on the upper right section, where you'll find the teacher evaluation resources. So those resources that Dr. Hartwell mentioned earlier about responsive and inclusive practices, the updated environment rubric, domain changes, those can be found in this section. In the middle row, you'll find the resources for the ADEPT 2020 Special Areas Evaluation. So Lila spoke about these resources. You'll see the guidelines, you'll see orientations. So that is where you would go to find them. And then we also have resources for SELEAD.org under these feature box, effectiveness, data, and professional growth. So you'll have the user guides for SELEAD, a lot of the how-tos there. And also the direct link to the SELEAD.org website is within that feature box. We also have this section for supporting student growth, mainly covers SLO resources. So the form that Lila mentioned earlier, the simplified SLO and the TLG can be found here. And then in the bottom row, you have a section for induction and mentoring where you'll find the induction and mentoring guidelines, as well as a link to the SARA website. Lastly, we want to highlight the professional learning feature box. This is where you find all the effectiveness trainings that we offer. And we are actually very excited that in the near future, the on-demand section will include the resources for SELEAD.org Evaluator 101, as well as hopefully the SLO Google site. So be on the lookout for those additional resources in that feature box, professional learning. Again, we understand this time is very busy for you. Many of you are already manually working on your staff rosters, cleaning them up. So we want to make sure that you have access to the resources that you need. So we haven't put this again on our website, but I am dropping it in the chat. This is a link to our SELEAD.org Evaluator 101 Google site. So there are clips there that come from many of our different trainings wherein we covered SELEAD.org. Some of the clips are from virtual office hours where we focused on something specific in the use of SELEAD.org. Also, you'll see on this screenshot on the right where it says help resources. This is inside your SELEAD.org account. So when you are in your home page, you will see this on the bottom right corner. And these are user guides that are in order of special areas, adept administrator, evaluator, and educator. So we want to make sure that you can find what you need in many of the places, but definitely the SELEAD.org Evaluator 101 Google site is a one-stop shop for that. And then just to let you know, while we are talking about SELEAD.org, some of you have been in your positions as a DEP coordinator and may be familiar with the SELEAD.org Professional Learning Library. We still will have that. It's in the process of being updated. It's currently unavailable, but we hope to get it updated by October 2021. And we're talking about it because we still want you to be excited about it. We want you to encourage its use because of these three main reasons. It can help personalize educators' professional growth. They can choose which clips or resources within the library address their need, right? They can assign something to themselves. And then second bullet, it's a great resource for your evaluators so that they can practice inter-rater reliability. When we have our SCTS 4.0 evaluator training, we're always asked that question. The new ones that completed our training last week were asking like, can I have somebody mentor me or this and that so that I can be sure sure that I'm rating properly. And our suggestion to them, of course, is to reach out to you, the adept coordinator, and discuss that possibility of maybe observing a classroom or together, or if not, utilize video clips that you might find useful within the professional learning library. And then lastly, this resource can help the evaluators and you, administrators, grow educators by assigning the content that tie to the educators' areas of refinement. So again, these are three big reasons why we want you to be excited about the professional learning library, and we'll keep you posted once it is live in SELead.org. And now I turn the mic back to Lila.
Thank you so much, Faye. We're so happy that you made it to office hours. I think this is the best part where y'all get to ask questions and have discussion. And in a moment, we'll just open up the mics and ask you to come on and ask those. But before that, we'd love to do a little temperature check in the chat. So as we've mentioned a couple times, we're really aware that these past couple years have been unusual. And the beginning of this school year continues to be a little bit unusual. And so we want to be mindful. You've given us feedback before about some things that probably need to be looked at with teacher evaluation in terms of updates. And we want to get a sense of if those are still priorities for you. So for number one, NIET has updated the environment domain. They did at the beginning of last year, and then we looked at it at the end of the year and adopted it for this year. They've also made similar research-based updates to instruction and planning. We're curious if you think South Carolina should look at including those updates in our rubric for 22-23, for 23-24, or just not to worry about it. So if you could type a number one and one of those choices in the chat, that would be great. The second is very similar. This is really more feedback we've gotten from districts, and I've talked to a few people about this before, that the professionalism domain could be a little bit more useful both for teachers and districts, that it's kind of hard to calibrate on. So professionalism, that would be something we'd bring advisory groups together and then shop those changes around. Similar, do you think it's a priority to update professionalism for 22-23, 23-24, or never? If you could just type number two for professionalism, and then when you think we should update it there, or if you want to combine one and two, that's great as well. There's no rush for us. We want to do what's best for the state, so we do appreciate you. And then for number three, the data that we've looked at, especially in looking at special areas and comparing teacher data and feedback again from many of you in this office hour space, is that the exemplary range for teacher evaluation could be a little bit wider, and probably the unsatisfactory range and not met could be a little bit wider as well, similar to the changes we made for special areas. So do you think we should update the scoring ranges for 22-23, 23-24, or never? We know that we all have a lot on our plates, so we just appreciate that feedback in the chat if you can give it. And now we'll open it up on the mic for any questions that you have.
Lila, this is Melanie Cohen. I don't mind saying this. I do think I love the fact that we're constantly looking at these things and updating evaluation. I think that's really important. But I also think that we've got to really keep in mind that we have a lot of people that have gone through a whole lot last year, this year, and I still think we're going to be in recovery mode next year. So I do think I am all for updating that, but I do think to be cognizant of the fact that little changes can add up and be a little bit difficult just to do them all in a couple of years when we're ready for that.
That's appreciated. We're also totally fine with people saying nothing, like we're good. We don't need to update anything with the special areas evaluations, we got a really solid system that was kind of state of the art for 2003, 2006. We kept it for 14 years. So we can also go that route. We don't want to mess with anything, but we also never want to, if we have a national partner who's saying, hey, we've made some updates, we think these are great, we never want to hide those from you if people think that those are better. Well, we will certainly stick around for the next 20 minutes just to field questions and help. But if you are like most other district friends that we've talked to in the past couple weeks, we know you are tightly scheduled. So it will not hurt any of our feelings if you wave goodbye and you head off to what you need to do. We will stick around for those questions, including Megan. Thank you so much. So the question about SC Lead rollover, PCS, SC Educator. I had my note to go back to those FAQs. So thank you, Megan, for bringing that up. So for PCS, based on information from yesterday from our IT department, the vendor for SC Educator is testing and retesting some of that site before it goes back online to make sure that it's consistent with what we need. They are hopeful that it'll be up by the end of the week. I feel more comfortable on the mic saying that next week SC Educator will be available for you. I do know our finance department will directly contact your finance departments as soon as it is open. And if we get wind that it is open, we will also make sure to let you know, because we know that does impact your ability to use bulk features and how easy things are for you to keep track of on your end. The second question that we've gotten a few cases in the spring that we addressed where the record inside of the professional certification system, PCS, and the record inside of SC Lead weren't necessarily showing the same updates. And so we did a round of digging here to address that. We have gotten some reports this week that people are seeing a few of those cases still. That is very concerning to us, and we want to make sure that we nip that in the bud. So if you hear or see or come across something that in PCS doesn't look like it does in SC Lead, please let us know, because we do have the ability to just do a complete reload to make sure that we have that. And then the question about rollover, the nice thing with SC Lead is there isn't, for teachers, really a rollover period anymore. There is the closing of the previous year. So we do close right around the 20th of June. We close the previous year for teacher evaluations, and now the new year is opened up. If you need corrections to last year's teacher evaluations, you can send those in through SC Lead corrections. The PDEP window stays open until September 1st. For last year's principal evaluations, but the window is already open for next year's principal evaluations because we know many of you do those PDEP conferences in the spring. Any other questions?
Lila, I'll hop on the mic for Kathy's question earlier about the evaluators not matching inside SC Lead and the NIET portal. So just for clarification, the evaluators listed in sclead.org, they pull from the list in NIET. So Lila kind of touched on it earlier about the mix up with the EID and the CID reporting. So we've been working our way through that, but we still discovered that a few evaluators have been accidentally granted evaluator credentials because somehow the educator reported to their trainer a wrong number. They reported their EID instead of their CID, and therefore that's person that truly got the credential could not see their evaluator credential in SC Lead, and then somebody else that has a matching CID to that EID is the one that accidentally got that credential. But for the most part, I believe that's been fixed. But if that's something that needs to be changed, we recommend really reviewing the data inside um, NIET, so that once you pull the one
Miss
inside SC
Miss
Lead,
Colley,
you'll
we
see it. Yeah,
have
go
an
ahead.
induction teacher that has been granted adept evaluator status. She has never even been to a training. Same
Yes.
way with another continuing teacher, never even been to a training. So that's not an opportunity to enter that. So I found two that have never been to any sort of training whatsoever that are at SC Lead. Then one of ours that has been in training the entire time and was in the system last year, has been in it 4 years with the same data, is not showing in the drop down. So the portal data is correct. The ADEPT portal NIET data report is correct. It does not match SC Lead. And so I just need simply to know how do I make this navigate?
Kathy, send those examples with the correct information to your ADEPT lead, and then we can do some detective work. Because if you've already done what Faye's described to kind of do the matching in the portal and you're not seeing it, or you're seeing these weird cases of people getting permission who shouldn't.
Yeah, those people were not even in there last year.
Troubleshooting. Send what specifically you're seeing to your ADEPT contact, and we'll track it.
Thank you, ma'am.
And Kathy, one of the other things that may be doing that is not necessarily your list that is messed up, but if the person the number was reported by another district accidentally, again, that ties to that new educator. So it looks like it's sounding that it is accidentally credited, especially if it's an induction teacher. So it's not necessarily just you reporting the CID, but other trainers from other districts, if they report a wrong number that matches somebody else's in any district, that credential will
I can say that the 3 years I've done SC Lead, I've never seen this happen. So this was a very different experience for us. We actually started school on July the 19th. So we are knee deep into orientations, knee deep into SLO conferences, and our window opens very soon. So I'd like to get this resolved so that I can use the evaluator that's not on the list and remove all the others. I've told my administrators, do not assign those other two people, even though they're in there to any teams, because that's not supposed to be there.
We'll get it cleared up for you, Kathy.
Thank you so much. This has been a long journey with that. Thank you.
Dr. Warren has a question in the chat, and I'll actually open it up to Faye and Julie, who were a part of redesigning that training. Where are we in terms of updating the environment section of evaluator training to reflect the new domain?
Hi, Cheryl. So we just concluded our 4.0 evaluator training, and then we did mention to our educators that if they go to the NIET portal, we have not updated those PowerPoints. The only PowerPoint that would have a change would be on day 1 to reflect the change in the name of the indicator from managing student behavior to engaging students and managing behavior. We have updated the one slide for the ones that's on the orientation. Right now, we are in the process of updating that one slide, but we do ask for everybody's help that when you're training others, remind them that here's the new rubric. We've updated that in the portal, and that to go by that. However, the training itself, like what we shared from last year, it doesn't really impact when we're trying to model for you the different connections of indicators and domains within that virtual evaluator training, or even with that PowerPoint that you use for face-to-face. So we do ask your help. There is a lot to go back into in terms of updating. So if we could have your help and just drive on that point that we have change that indicator and to use the new rubric, which is available on our website and in the NIT portal.
Thank you. I had some training with my mentors this summer, and basically what I did, I went through the instruction domain, because that was pretty much the same as we're going to use it next year. And what I did, I just had them to compare the instruction domain to the environment domain with the changes. There was a tape, I don't know where I found the tape. I think NIE had done it, but the tape was good information, but it was basically dialogue the whole time. And in an afternoon, I tried to do something to liven it up some. So what I basically did, I had them to take notes off the tape, and in that tape it explained where the information in the environment domain was related to the instruction domain. And after they took the notes, then basically part of the engaging activity, we went over it together. And I had already done some homework, and I had compared them myself just on paper, but they could come up with some ideas that I had not even thought of, and the tape had not even thought of how to connect the two. And that's what I did, waiting on you, on your expertise to help. That's what I did.
Thank you so much for sharing that.
I'm looking back through the questions. I see one from Daniel. Any chance of getting updated training videos from NIET? So we're not looking, for the same reason it takes a while to learn a new evaluation system. It takes a while to learn the training videos. We're not looking at updating those videos currently that are within training. We will have a full length additional scored video available in the Learning Objects repository later this fall. So that's something we will have. Melanie, feel free to come on the mic and ask your question.
Thank you. Just a couple of quick questions. I do have a brand new school that's not showing up. So where are we with that? And then our virtual school as well is not showing up. What do we need?
Sure. So everyone, the way that the process works is y'all enter into the district entity information management system, whatever DEIMS is, the updates for the school list. And then once I know that there are updates, we send that list to Randa once during the summer. And we did it a little earlier this year because we know for districts, especially charter districts like Emily's that get new schools every year, having that new school so she can train them is really important. So we sent that in July. We sent another updated version at the end of July. We got an email from 2 different districts, I think Spartanburg 3 and Charleston, that there are additional new schools. So we sent the list today, the new one that was updated August 6th. I can look on that. Melanie, what your virtual school has a special name that I'm not remembering.
5.
That's right. I was going to say 5.
There you go.
And
it's
then
always
who's
5.
the other one that's missing?
It's Piney Woods Elementary, which is
okay.
brand new.
I'll look and see what that is. My hunch is this has something to do, if you've had schools that were there and now they're missing, it's something to do with the SC educator testing and rostering would be my hunch. I'm not an IT lady though, so it may be beyond my expertise, but I will look at the schools list we have and make sure it has any schools y'all think should be there on it, and then make sure that SC Lead has those.
Will you just let us know? Let me know.
Sure.
Okay. And then I have another question. I know I should know this, so I just need some help and a brain refresh. If we have a classroom teacher or who's on a classroom evaluation, but they're a coach, like a reading or a literacy coach, they're in their 5th year formative, how do we make sure that the system doesn't require the observations? Because she doesn't have students.
You don't put them on formative.
You put them on GB.
You put them on GB.
That's all I need to know.
Yeah,
Thank you.
it's a good question though. I had to rack my brain for a second and say, yes, they would normally be on continuing formative, but it doesn't make sense. Don't make them take over someone's classroom and be observed on the rubric. That's not useful feedback for them. Just
Exactly.
do your
I just wanted
normal.
to, that was what my thought was. And I know I've done that before, but I just wanted to make sure, because it really, if you look back through their adept history, you're not going to see that formative piece. But I guess my question is anybody really checking it when they go get their, they're supposed to be formally have that formative evaluation, but it's really not going to be formative for those folks.
We search the records just to make sure we're getting, roughly the right amount of formatives, but we are not checking at that level. So you will not get dinged for it anywhere. And it's really about just making sure those folks get feedback. So especially if they've taken on those leadership roles and they've been in them for a while, is someone actually checking in to say, hey, you're a great reading coach, or you're a great reading coach, and here's where you could grow.
Yeah, I got you. Okay, that's what I just wanted to make sure of that. So I appreciate it.
Good
Hey,
question.
Lila, this is
Mhm.
Anita Parker.
Yes, ma'am.
I have a question that it's about the rosters of evaluators that
Mhm.
exist when we go to look like school by school. And I don't know if you can make this change for various reasons, or maybe you can somewhere down the future. It's kind of difficult. Like right now, we're starting schools, and I have people, you know how I have set up adept liaisons at each school, so they communicate with me directly. And so when they go in, or when I go in and I can send them, a copy of their list, the folks that show on their list are folks who were at that school when they received their evaluator training. However, those folks could be now transferred to another school. So the list really doesn't help them. Now, I know in the past, and of course, we can do this in districts, we can do our own lists and sort and everything. But at one point, just wanted to share this, and it would be appreciated, at least by me, that if the department could just have our evaluators listed, not necessarily by school, that way, it would avoid something like that. Like the person's at another school now, and so they don't show up on the appropriate school. So if a new adept liaison came and looked at it, they might see fewer evaluators than they had or something. I hope I'm clear.
You are, I believe, if you want to, you can change this now by going into the Adept Support portal and clicking on the administration tab and just changing the school that person is at, because I think they register their school from the list of schools when they are trained. So I think you have the option to change that, and then that would, SC Lead just takes whatever is in the Adept Support portal and imports it. So I hope that works.
I think
if it doesn't, let me know, and it's something that we can certainly put on our list. A couple times a year, we talk to SC Lead and we say, here are the things we're hearing. How hard would it be to do this?
Right. Yeah. And I think there is a way, like, for instance, we have, let's say a director that came to us from another district. And so when she's here, the process you're talking about, yes, she would submit that to NIET, SC Lead, to put her current district. But what I'm saying is something even more simple than that, because that still requires us to go through each school every year, because folks transfer every year, and do that update. If there could just be Beaufort County Schools list of evaluators, and we could just print that.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Thank you. You can print it from the SC Adept Support portal.
Yeah. But I know, but they won't be at the right schools. You see what I'm saying?
Unless you change them. Yep.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah, because it's not pulling the data from PCS. It's pulling the data from NIET.
Right. So yeah, that would take a little pressure off. Thanks for listening.
Yeah.
Well, I'll jump in on that, Anita. If you use that spreadsheet, and you
Mhm.
have multiple educators, that just makes it easier for NIET to work on all that. But just like
Uh-huh.
Lila said, you can send that email, but I think it will be easier for you also in the long run to
Uh-huh.
have a one data spreadsheet and know that, hey, I already requested this, and submitted it to them for updates.
Uh-huh. Okay. Thank you, Faye.
You're welcome.
Faye, if you don't mind going to the last slide, we're certainly open to other questions that are coming in, but we want to make one more ask of you, which is that we really appreciate these office hours being useful for you. And when you come on the mic and you ask questions or give suggestions, just like Anita did, so we can talk through together, hey, what we're really looking for is just a list of evaluators for the whole district, so we can pull that there, and so it's not chopped up by school and it's a little easier. That feedback is invaluable for us. So I just invite you, if there are topics you want us to talk about in September, if you could just type those into the chat. If you are interested in just presenting something you're doing that seems to be working for teacher effectiveness support and growth and development, and you'd be willing to share that in an office hours, please let us know, and we will put the spotlight on you, either in a newsletter, or if you're comfortable coming on and presenting in office hours, we'd love to cover the topics that you want. So if you don't mind adding one of those in the chat before you head out, but we just appreciate you very much. If you need to get in touch with anyone in our office, our updated contact information is here, and we really appreciate y'all making the time to be here.
Lila, this is Cheryl. Can I ask a question related to an issue that happened at the end of last year? And I'm not sure, I just want to make sure whatever I did, if I did anything, doesn't get repeated. I had entered all of our evaluation results into SC Lead, and about middle of the summer realized that it evidently did not sync with SC Educator, because none of the evaluations were showing up to other districts. And so for resignations and those sorts of things. And the only thing that I was able to offer Rodney as we were trying to brainstorm this is I had put my evaluations in before the first rollover, the first Friday in May, when they did the continuing rollover. And I don't know, did that precipitate it, or we still don't know what happened? Because I wound up having to go back and redo them all.
Oh my goodness, Cheryl.
Yeah.
I am so sorry you had to go back and do them all. We ended up doing, I think, a couple different manual reloads because we had noticed we'd had a few districts reach out to us with it just being a few educators. This is the first I've heard of a district that had everyone not there. So A, I'm so sorry that happened to you. B, when we dug into it with kind of IT on both sides, they did not see anything they thought that was on the user end.
Okay.
They thought that it was something in the programming and not related to autocomplete. So I will dig into it a little further. It's something, especially, someone just brought up last week that they saw another one that didn't match. If we've done a complete reload during the summer, that should have caught everything. So I want to make sure that we're on top of it now. I will also ask if there's anything with autocomplete that could have triggered it, because just knowing that happened for you, I'll check that out and see if that could possibly have been anything when they did their first round of analysis. We didn't hear anything like that back.
All right, I appreciate it.